Since the mid-90s, the Distressor compressor by Empirical Labs has been a de facto Swiss Army knife tool of compressors in most everyone's studio arsenal. And today we're going to look at Universal Audio's plugin version. It is awesome. Let's check it out. Hey everyone, my name is Carlo Libertini and thanks for hanging with us today. I'm really excited about this because the Distressor by Empirical Labs is truly probably the most flexible compressor you could ever add to your studio. I mean, any mixes can benefit from this. Why? Well, because it really is flexible. I'm talking, you can add tube analog warmth, punch, clarity, even optical tube style compression to your mixes. We're going to take a look at some of that here with the plugin version from Universal Audio. Now, what we're looking at here is the plugin version. And I got to tell you, I've been using Distressors for years now, and they just put a big smile on my face every time. Now, I created a quick session for us. Let's dive in. We're going to check this out on some drums, some bass, some guitars, and answer some questions. And let's get started. But before we do, don't forget to like and subscribe. Become part of our music marketing team today. We're glad to have you. Leave your creative comments below. We answer every single one of them. We do our best. All right, let's dive in. Here is a sample session with the Distressors on, drums, bass, guitars, and let's take a listen to what we're starting with. Now what you're seeing here is the Distressor on my stereo overheads. So what makes the Distressor so unique? It is one of the best-selling compressors, if not the best-selling compressor of all time. Because as I said before, it offers something really interesting. It does bring a sort of tonal color and character to your mixes. So if you want that, which everybody does because it does this so well, then the Distressor is for you. But being a plug-in version that we're looking at here, it also has some advantages. For example, you know, the plugin version allows you to have headroom control, which I really like, presets, recallability, and obviously much, much more. You can also get one of my favorite, the wet-dry mix here too in the plugin version. So being a plugin version, you know, you get all that greatness of the Distressor plus more thanks to Universal Audio. All right, so let's dive in a little bit here. let me solo my drums, for example, and I'm going to bypass the plugin here on the snare, kick, and the overheads. And this is what we started with. Some great recorded drums, but we want to get these ready for mixing. And I'll show you how easily you can do this by just adding the Distressor here on the overheads, snare, and kick. All right, let's bring it in. Ready? Wow. Isn't that amazing? I just love when you can get creative, amazing sounding results so easily, thanks to Universal Audio, that is. Now let's take a look at what we're doing here. So on my overheads, as I mentioned before, let's solo the overheads. And let's go to right here and bring in, there we go. Now, the Distressor is really unique in a lot of ways, and I think the real magic starts here with the ratio controls. Okay, we got 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3, 4, 6, and each one of these does something different, and that's why I think the ratio, for me, is one of the best starting places. Because depending on what ratio you choose, the Distressor compressor is going to give you different capabilities, if you will, regarding attack and release and so on. So for example, on 1-to-1, you'd probably have, there's obviously no compression, but you will bring in some of the warmth, tonal character of the Distressor, meaning that you'll have saturation only. Let's put it on 1-to-1 right now. Let me bypass it. Obviously, I have my output here set to 7. But as easy as that, just by bringing in the saturation characteristics of this plugin and then adjusting your output level, it already sounds so more larger and spacious, if you will. I love that. So next we'd have 2-to-1. Here, more of a mild compression, obviously. But one of the things that's to circle back to that I was saying is that each one of these ratios includes a different knee attack. So how are you going to attack it? A soft knee or a hard knee? And keep in mind, it's a fixed threshold. So if you want to increase your compression, you're going to do that here with the input dial. Again, very reminiscent of some other classic popular compressors. 3-to-1 is a little bit more obviously than 2-to-1, but the real magic often for me starts around 4-to-1 and 6-to-1. This is where you get into some mid-level compression, if you will, and it's a really good starting point for, I think, most signals. If you want a little bit, like let's say on our overheads, you could choose 1-to-1, 3-to-1. But when you start wanting to really impart some of the real characteristics, then you want some more higher ratios. Obviously, you can see at 10-to-1, it now is emulating an optical compressor. You can see that the attack and release have opto 10 and opto 0. Those are good starting points here for you when you're in the 10-to-1 zone, when you want to emulate an optical compressor. Did I not say this was like a Swiss Army knife of compressors? Well, it really is. And obviously 20-to-1 is going to be more of your hard limiting, great for controlling very, very dynamic sounds. And then you've got nuke. Nuke is for just blowing up your room signals, and use it creatively. Have fun with that one, of course. And again, just I just love the naming characteristics of this. Now, from there, obviously we have our detector. This is an internal side chain where you can actually roll off some of the low end here. This way, some of the low end energy, if you're working with particular instruments, isn't affecting the compressor's behavior. More of the musical content is, if you will. So you can roll off, I think, 100 hertz here. But my favorite is the high pass. You've got the band pass here. I think this is probably 5 to 6K. I think it's 6K actually. That's applied to the side chain. This is great for I think works great on guitars when you want to tame some frequencies there. And then you have linking, which brings the stereo cohesiveness. And you can scroll through any combination of these. Here we have the low cut, the band, then a combination of both, and so on. And you can do that also by clicking the LEDs. And then it gets even better, because when you get into the audio here, this is where you're going to impart some of what I like to consider the tube characteristics. You again have a high pass, but you have distortion 2 and 3. And this is going to be second order harmonics and third order harmonics. Use them creatively, obviously. Distortion 2, I think, is great for like a tube style overdriven sound. You can get distortion effects out of the distressor, obviously. And the third one obviously emulates what some consider to be more like a tape-like behavior right there. All right, and then we can bypass, turn the whole plugin on and off. We can also bypass it here. And then we have our headroom control, and this is unique to the plugin, as I mentioned before. This is something that I like in most of Universal Audio plugins. Will give you headroom control, where you can actually, it'll attenuate how you're pushing more of the processing by going to the right, or less of the processing to the left. So you can set a lower value when less processing and less distressor tone or color is required. And again, it's a little bit right there. You can see it. I'm just turning it a little bit right there. Or if you want more of the distressor warmth, you can boost it right there. Again, only available in the plugin. Then you've got your attack, your release, your output or your makeup gain, and then our wet-dry mix. This is great for blending in the original signal with some of the compressed signal. Most of the time you might just leave it on comp, I get it, but sometimes for acoustic instruments, we want to do some parallel type compression here. Mixing it in a little bit, would probably be one of the best recommendations I can give you for that style of music. All right, let's get into this a little bit more. Now we also have it here on my kick drum. Let's bring this in actually. And I just love the effect. Now, there are some great presets, and you can see that I'm using a preset called Big Kick. To open the preset browser, just select the area right here. I went to drums, and obviously I chose Big Kick. And to make it a favorite, just toggle the star on, and now you can access this easily. But I usually tweak my presets. They might get me a little bit of the way there, and then what you can do is just save them up here as your own presets right here with your own. I usually will do something like this: Big Kick. I'll put my initials there, CL dash. I'll do like Big Kick, maybe V1, and then give it something like maybe the kick drum name if it was a Tama, and then choose Save As. I can even add a little bit more information in there to help me with the tags when searching. So that's really cool. So the presets are a great way to get started, to help jumpstart your creativity, and then you could tweak them from there. And it also helps train you into what the Distressor can do for you regarding guitar, bass, and you could actually populate, let's see, the best of, which could be considered maybe some of the most common style presets here. We have snare, guitar, best of heavy vocal styles. And I find that these are all super well thought out. Great job, Universal Audio. You've got favorite vocal, basic vocal compressor, great place to start there, and so on and so forth. So presets rock every time. And here we have it on our kick drum. Let me bypass it. This is what we started with here. Nice sounding kick drum. Let's bring in the Distressor. Bypassed. There's some certain magic to this compressor that I just absolutely love. You can see we're not doing too much. 2-to-1, the release. I could probably tweak the release a little bit if I wanted to maybe make it a little bit faster. Maybe if I wanted to capture some of the transients or let the kick hits come through a little bit, depending on the performance value. Now you might notice that sometimes we're hitting what's called red line and 1%. That's because the red line means that we're reaching about 3% of harmonic distortion, and this is 1% harmonic distortion. So if you start illuminating these, you're in more of the creative realm. You're adding harmonic distortion content. Okay, so keep an eye on these LEDs here. All right, and we also have a beautiful gain reduction meter, which, by the way, is a tip for you that even when it's bypassed, the gain reduction meter will still illuminate. And I like that, let you know it's still there and ready to use. Okay, but of course, what is a compressor without its input? Here's your input level. And as I mentioned before, it's a fixed threshold. So to, increase how much compression or how less depends on how much input you drive into it or how much you don't. That's going to be the taste based on whatever audio signal you're working with. And then obviously the attack is right here. 0 is the fastest. You go from 50 microseconds to 30 milliseconds. And I think that's really, really amazing. Super fast. And the same with the release. Setting to knob 0 is the fastest release time. 0.05 seconds, all the way up to 3.5 seconds. But note that when you're in 10-to-1 here in opto mode, the release can be up to 20 seconds because of the way the program behaves. All right, I think that's just fantastic. Let's go back to our presets, open this up, go to drums again, and let's try something like, let me take vocal off so we can see some more of this. Drum bus, drum room, rock kick. Let's put it on that one. Here's before, the original one. And here's with this preset. Nice, let's bring in our overheads. Oh, that sounds amazing. Oh, that just sounds absolutely amazing. Let's solo our drums. Here's with the UAD Distressor plugin engaged. Now I'm going to bypass it. Here's without. Here's with. Absolutely amazing. Now I also have it on our snare drum right here. Why not take a listen to this? I'm gating it a little bit, and obviously now I created my own here for us. This is on default, but I tweaked it a little bit. All right, let's go to the snare top is where I put it. Oh, wait, I'm still in group mode. Let me take my group mode off and go to snare top. I can turn that up a little bit for us to hear. Here's bypass. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. Here we go. I put on the snare top for a good reason, because I wanted to get more of the snares. Let's bring in the dry. This is the dry signal. Let's blend in the compressed signal. Let's bring in the bottom now. And that's the sound I was looking for. Here, I just have Distressor on the snare side of the snare. Okay, the bottom. Here's without it, and here's with it. There's a nice snap and nice crack to it. Again, I could listen to this all day long. And there we go with the drums, and let's bring in the bass. Drums sound amazing. And you notice I'm not doing much to the drums, am I? They were recorded really well. And all I did was add Universal Audio's Distressor to the overhead stereo, the snare bottom, and the kick out mic. That's it. That's it. And a little bit of gating on the snare bottom. And look what we got. So cool. Now on the bass, you'll notice that I'm also using the Empirical Distressor here. I have it set to default. This is right out of the box. If I wanted to go maybe 4-1, a little bit more leveling, let's adjust it. If you wanted a, I'm gonna get some more of the body in there. Try to tame some of the transients there. Did you hear that? Let's let some through. So if I wanted to tame some of those transients, let's see. I want it a little bit faster. Smooth it out a little bit. There's a good sweet spot. Now I'm going to add some distortion. Let's go to the tape style. Let's blend in some of the original signal. And there we have it. Easy as that. Now, you know, a list goes on and on. I mentioned that it's great on guitars. I have it on some clean guitars right here. Here's without. I'm using a preset called Driving Acoustic for this one, and I tweaked it a little bit, just a little bit. You can see it's also on Distortion 3, emulating more of that tape harmonic overdrive. But I'm going to put my detector on band here because I want to tame some of the harshness. Okay. This is the rock guitar in the left ear. Let's bypass that. Gets a little lost in the mix. You don't have to turn it up to make something have more presence. You can use Universal Audio Distressor here to do that. And there you have it. So the distressor, clearly, there's a reason why there are tens of thousands of these hardware units sold, but now you can have the plug-in version for far less and get even more capabilities thanks to, software. I mean, like I said, you've got the wet dry mix, the headroom here, presets, which I think are pretty amazing here. All Universal Audio presets are just a great place to jumpstart your creativity. So definitely check them out. And the best way, of course, is to find out for yourself. So visit some of the links down below, leave your creative comments with us, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And get started today and just stay busy and stay creative, everyone. And thank you for watching.